Okay, you're live.
We are live, and I am gaveling us into order. It is 5:06 p.m. by my calendar, my watch. It is a regular meeting of the governing body, February 22nd, 2023, 5:05. And we will have a pledge of allegiance led by, I believe, Councilor Chavez, if I got that right. Salute to the New Mexico flag from Councilor Lindell, and then an invocation and remembrances kicked off by Councilor Mara Worth. So please rise.
I'd like for us all to take a moment to reflect, to pause on our roles as public officials and leaders in this community. Our days are full, the demands of service often high, but I believe we are all grateful for our roles and for the trust that's placed in us. And so as we begin our meeting tonight on this very snowy evening, I just want us to take a moment of gratitude for these extraordinary positions that we are honored to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there people who we should be remembering tonight? I'd like to call to mind Mr. Stephen Chance, who passed away last week. I believe I sent his wife a note. He was a stalwart member of our community. He gave enormous service to Santa Fe. He was deeply involved in a variety of civic groups and very interested in our Santa Fe community when it came to international affairs and our knowledge of and role in the world. And he will be missed for his involvement in, engagement with, and contribution to Santa Fe. Anyone else? Well, let's just take a minute. As Councilor Merrill said, we are very privileged to be here, and there are others in our community who are struggling, trying to make ends meet, deal with cold weather, deal with hard times. Let's keep them in our minds and bow our heads for a moment of prayer. Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Mayor Weber.
Present.
I'll note that Councilor Cassett is excused from this.
He is excused.
Yes. Councilor Chavez. Here. Councilor Lee Garcia.
Present.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Present.
Councilor Lindell.
Here.
Councilor Rivera.
Here.
Councilor Mara Worth.
I'm here.
Councilwoman Villarreal.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Item number 6 on our agenda tonight is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Oh, very good. Checking my cheat sheet. That's a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. What's next, Madam Clerk? The consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll on that motion?
Yes, Councilor Chavez.
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Lindell. Yes. Councilor Rivera.
Yes.
Councilor Mara Worth.
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal.
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. And I believe we have a presentation tonight, Madam Clerk.
That is correct. We have our fiscal year, our audit update for fiscal year 21.
We good?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good
members of the council. I'm Emily Oster, happy to be here with you this evening to give you an update on the status of our fiscal year 2021 audit. We've had a couple of big milestones since I last reported to you, including the signing of the engagement letters for both fiscal year 21 and 22. And we received on Monday of this week, the second PBC, which is the provided by client list for phase 2. That consists of about 70 different items related to a variety of areas that they're looking at in the audit. Those include cash and investments, accounts receivable and revenue, property tax, utilities, inventory, capital assets, debt, self-insurance, and payroll, among a number of other things. These are all normal requests. This is exactly where I would expect to be at this stage of the audits. We're pulling samples. Some of the information is coming from as far back as July of 2020. So, some of it's pretty old, but we're providing the documentation to the auditors for their review. And that is keeping both the finance staff and staff from other departments within city government very busy. So I just want to thank my colleagues in other departments for your help, and everyone is all hands on deck to get this done. I really feel the support and really appreciate that from my colleagues and the other departments within city government. So we are gathering that documentation and submitting it, and then the auditors are reviewing it, asking questions. There's, normal back and forth happening. And that is my update for this evening. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Director Oster. Are there questions? I know this is probably a unfair question, but if you were to characterize the progress to date, generally, are we on track? Are we keeping pace with our expectations? Are there unanticipated speed bumps? All of those may be true, but from your assessment, do you think we're on the right trajectory to getting this done timely?
Mr. Mayor, I think we're moving forward, and we're moving forward as quickly as we can. So I think we're on the path towards getting this audit completed for FY21, getting 22 completed. We're making progress. We're moving forward. And, when I reported to you back in January, we had received a list of about 70 items from the first phase of the PBC list. I do expect there's probably going to be a phase 3, but we're done with phase 1. We're on to phase 2. We're gathering those items. Some are very straightforward. Others are a lot more involved. But we're getting them the information, and we're responding to the questions. And I just really, can see both within the finance staff and everybody else within city government, and then also our contract support with Clifton Larson Allen. Everyone is very focused, and we're making progress every day.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much. I'm grateful for you being here, and thanks for the update.
Thank you.
So, Madam Clerk, I think we now move on to post consent items.
Correct, Mayor. Item 10A, we're on the discussion agenda. So this is request for approval of a general services contract with IPS Group Incorporated in the amount of $740,525, including NMGRT for replacement of 600 parking meters and 4 years of monitoring and credit card gateway services for our city's single space parking meters. And Ms. Regina Wheeler, our Public Works Director, is available for this item.
Okay. Would we prefer a presentation and then a motion, or a motion and then a presentation? It's a motion first. Let's get a motion on the table.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion. I apologize. Not a move, a motion to approve it. And there is a second. And now, Ms. Wheeler, I think if you'll walk us through it, we'll be able to ask questions in the context of the motion.
Thank you so much, Mayor, members of the governing body. As you are aware, our single space parking meters are in very poor condition in the field right now. Our maintenance team, they were installed in 2014. Their usable life is 7 to 10 years, so they're definitely at the end of their life. They also have antiquated technology, so we require an upgrade just to stay with the times of wireless technology and all of the services that you need from a meter these days, including credit card payments. And so when Director Correa was here, he had performed a due diligence assessment of a number of types of meters that might be a good idea for the city. Just as it was time to replace meters, he went through a number of vendors and looked at their meters, and some of the meters he decided were a potential replacement for us, and they were installed on Federal Way, those black meters. They kind of look like Darth Vader tubes. So we've tested those they've been installed for almost 2 years. And the feedback from customers and staff is that those are actually harder to maintain, not as user-friendly. And so it was determined out of the IPS, and those are McKay meters, that IPS would really serve us best. And we were budgeted this year with some funds to replace some of the meters. And so that's what this contract is for, is to replace 600 of them. And that'll get us really well up and running. The maintenance team is able to keep a number of the ones that still need to be replaced. They all need to be replaced, but they're able to keep a number of them running. And then we've asked for additional funds in the fiscal year 24 budget to replace the rest of the meters. And that'll be done right away afterwards as part of this contract as well. I think that's all I have to share. I'm happy to answer questions. We also have the vendor standing by online on Zoom for any technical questions, since I won't be able to dive terribly deeply into the technical aspect of the meter.
Great. I would imagine there's some questions about the existing meters and the replacement and what the services part of the contract are. So I'll recognize anyone who wants to raise a hand. I see Councilor Garcia with his hand up. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just did read in the packet in regards to meters that aren't working. If somebody parks there, they don't get charged or won't get a ticket. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So how do people know, or obviously if it's not working? Because I think a lot of times you park at a parking meter and, you know, it's not working. First thought is going to be, I'm going to get a ticket. And so is there any other way we could maybe identify those or have a sign on them? I know you mentioned boots or the hoods and stuff like that, but all the ones that aren't working, is it feasible to put hoods on them that say, you know, free parking?
Thank you so much for the question, Councilor and Mayor, members of the governing body. Yes, in fact, we have green bags for meters that are broken that say, feel free to park here at no charge to the city. That was advertised about a year ago. I don't know if you remember an article on the front page of the New Mexican that said red or green, and it explained red bags are actually reserved and you can't park there for things like funerals or the legislative session, or you know, if a business needs it for a special need, they'll pay for and reserve a meter, and we'll do the red bag. But the green bags indicate that someone can park for free at the meter. And it was also in an article last night or today, I guess. And we have ordered more bags so that it looks like we have on average about 250 broken at any one time, and we'll have over 250 bags. So we should be able to bag the broken meters. With the approval of this contract, we expect to receive and install the new meters within 6 weeks, right around 6 weeks. So they'll be able to ship them quickly and get them installed. And so we won't be in this state much longer.
Okay. Yeah, that's just my main concern. People parking and they feel like they get a ticket. So they're standing there, they have a meeting somewhere and you're trying to get in. Definitely having them identified that there's no charge to park there would be really nice. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Others? Yeah, we got a whole bunch of hands. Councilor Woman Villarreal and then Councilor Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilor Garcia, for answering that or asking that question. I had the same concern. Just as a follow-up, Director Wheeler, is if staff doesn't know that the meter is broken and folks get a ticket, how do we resolve that situation?
Thank you, Councilor, for the question. They don't give tickets to people at broken meters. The parking officers check that before they give a ticket, so they can check the meter that it's not working. Also what a customer can do is take a picture of the meter, and then they can just file that with an appeal with a ticket.
Okay. Okay, I'll send you I'll send on something that we recently received on that topic. The other question I had is about the refurbished meters. What's the lifespan of refurbished meters?
It's also 7 to 10 years with the same warranty as a new meter.
Okay, so it functions well, it doesn't function the same way, but it's refurbished and they anticipate and guarantee that it will last 7 to 10 years?
The guarantee, just like on a new meter, is a 2-year warranty.
I think that's it. That's all I had. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Counselor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Director Wheeler, for being here to present this item. I guess first question is, can you help me understand the procurement process we went through for this item?
Yes, certainly. Thank you for the question. It was procured using a cooperative purchasing mechanism, which means that there are a number of ways that we have cooperative purchasing, like state price agreements where the state goes out to bid, or we use CES, which is Cooperative Educational Services, where that group goes out to bid and gets the best price from a bunch of vendors, and then anybody can use those contracts. And so we used a cooperative purchasing mechanism, and it's in your packet, and I'm getting scrolling down there. It's called NCPA, and that's just like those other two mechanisms where that group goes out to bid for services and then creates a contract with approved vendors, and then we can use that vendor.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. My next question is, because we're going to the single space meter, or continuing that practice, I don't think Noel, or at least it wasn't explained in the packet, or I don't know if Noel explored more of a kind of a kiosk meter, similar to what we have like in the Water Street parking lot. Kiosks are widely used across the country, and just wondering why we're not going with that model versus one that requires us to replace, or in this instance, 600 at this one time, where it would be far less, a fraction of that. And if, you know, and I'm just looking at it from the perspective of maintenance. Do we want to maintain 600 meters versus a fraction, whatever that fraction would be, one per block? And so if you can help me understand why we're going with this model versus a kiosk model.
Thank you so much for that question. We do use both actually throughout our parking system, and we have a number of the kiosk type meters available and have installed them around town, but customers really don't like to have to walk down the street, manage getting their little thing to show that they have paid and putting it in their window. And so what we use the multi-pay meters where there's less utilization of parking, but downtown in the high utilization area where people just really want to pull up, put money or their card in and go. That's what we use is the single space meters. When the meters are new, they take very little maintenance. And they're under warranty for 2 years. So all of that maintenance would be warranted. So they provide us parts that we can replace for free. And we had very low maintenance requirements for the first 5 years of owning the meters, but now that they're beyond useful life, it is quite a maintenance headache. So we really make the choice based on customer service for the location, but we do use those multi-space meters as well.
Okay. I understand the perspective of customer service, but I think, again, I look at cities like Albuquerque, for example, when I remember an undergrad at UNM in grad school, it's all kiosks around campus, and it becomes habit. You know where the kiosks are, and I think, again, I'm looking at it from a perspective of less units to maintain, because my next question is looking at the revenue generated, and it's 2018, $2.1 million, 2022, $1.1 million. And it's saying revenues dropped partly due to COVID. Well, 2022, I think we were back in action. The GRT shows that. And it also says due to a large number of inoperative meters. And so with that being said, I'd like for us to begin to explore a different model, because if we get into this situation again where we're losing half of our revenue because of inoperative meters, we're in the same predicament. And I think convenience is not justifiable in that sense when you're losing $1 million a year. Again, it's I don't hear complaints about it of folks. I think when the way technology works, you can actually go ahead and go online and get the app and plug in your license plate, and you don't even have to deal with the meters or kiosks. You're good to go. And I think that's the direction society is moving. And I think with what's being presented to us, that this is going to be a system we're going to be utilizing for 7 to 10 years, I would anticipate, given the lifespan of these. So, I mean, I just wish we were exploring a different model. With that being said, have we explored making meters free? But I know that $1.1 million in revenue that it's bringing in, but when we're having to spend half of that to install new meters, and we don't know if it's, year 3, the warranty ends, if we've got to replace them all, cost benefit. If we're really looking at customer service, let's take the model of first come, first serve parking for our residents and our visitors. So have we explored that opportunity of looking at a no parking meter system, and looking at, if folks want to pay to park, then they go to our garage or one of our garage facilities?
Thank you so much for the questions, or the many, many questions, but I will try to cover some of them. So the parking division is an enterprise fund and relies on this revenue in order to operate. The actually timed parking and paid parking is extremely important for a number of things. And that is, the key one is to create turnover. So if parking is free, then all the employees from every business just park there in the morning when they get there, and then no customers can ever park at that space. So there's nobody to manage the parking system. There's no control about how long somebody stays there. And it doesn't create that turnover that's so critical for our small businesses. So we have explored that this system that was implemented was after, there was more free parking than there is now. And I just wanted to, so it is, we have tried it, and it does have downsides. The other upside of paying for parking is that we really are trying to shift to a multimodal city. And we need to put all the pieces together, better trails, better sidewalks. But a piece of it is to make sure that our valuable downtown real estate that's right in front of our businesses isn't free for somebody to just park their car as long as they want. And so we really need to make sure that those spaces serve the businesses, they serve our downtown, they serve our customers, and they're available for use as people need to access even City Hall, for instance. And so the paid parking has a lot of benefits besides the inconvenience of having to pay.
Can I jump on that for a sec? Because I love the question, Counselor.
Sure, absolutely.
When I first got into office, I also was taken with the idea that we might try some new experiments, and that's always a popular topic. We live in a city where people love the idea of coming and having a free parking space, and it's convenient, and it's comfortable. It's kind of it feels good. But the more you look into the theory and practice of parking, it's a fascinating subject. And there is actually a sweet, like all things, there's an algorithm these days. There's a sweet spot in calculating the cost and time of parking that is both acceptable and feels fair, but also creates turnover, so that you don't end up, any community, any city doesn't end up with what the director said, 6 o'clock in the morning, the employees show up for work, the parking spaces are taken, shoppers, visitors, tourists, residents who want to come down and do business are blocked immediately because there's no required turnover. There's a wrinkle to that. You can have free for 2 hours, and you have to have a crew going around and marking tires with yellow chalks, and it adds another layer of complexity. But I love your question, because it really, there really is a science to the whole field of urban parking policy and economics. And I think at this point, after a lot of work, we're in a pretty good sweet spot. I don't think it's ever perfect, and it's always worth reviewing whether our algorithm is producing the turnover, whether people are downloading the app as you described, because that's another convenience that is wasn't conceived of 10 years ago, probably. And now you don't even, if you're shopping and you're in a store, you get a signal from your parking app that if you don't want a ticket, you can hit this button. It is really a different field than it was some time ago. And you're right to track what the coming attractions look like. I think that's a very fair comment. So thank you for letting me jump in. I love the subject.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for providing additional context. And again, it's just wondering, like I said, exploring opportunities for us, I think it's in government, we've always got to be asking the question, why are we doing it this way? Is there a different way we can be doing it better? If not, then we continue on with the status quo. But so thank you for the context. I guess the only last question I have is regarding the revenue, because I just want to confirm that the revenue stated in the memo is from the meters, or is it lumped in meters and parking garage revenue?
Thank you so much for the question, Counselor. It is from the meters.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Well, thank you, Director Wheeler. I really appreciate all the clarification you provided tonight. No other questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah.
Counselor Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I'm delighted that we're replacing these meters. I'd be very curious to see what happens with the revenue now that we're getting rid of the faulty ones and see if that does help. I have had a number of complaints about this, and I think the questions about what do I do when the meter doesn't work? Do I have to, and I have had anecdotal stories of people who go to more than one and have the same experience. So I think this is a really important improvement, and I'm delighted to see it. And I just want to thank you for that. And I think it would be interesting to see once we get these faulty meters up, once we return to a more regular economy with coming out of COVID, what will happen? Will we see the impact go up? I also, I got to say, I can totally understand the idea of convenience and, not having to look around for a kiosk. When I travel to other cities and you get in that situation and you aren't familiar with the street or you don't know where the kiosk is, it is definitely an inconvenience. And it is nice to have what do you call them? Single use meters, especially when you're not familiar, if you're visiting somewhere and you're not familiar with where the kiosks are. So glad that we use a mixture of ways of providing for people to pay. And I just, again, want to say thank you. I'm delighted that this is about to happen. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Villarreal.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Angelica Serrano, who's with us, that's been covering a lot for the areas since we're still looking for a division director for parking. And there's just a lot going on. And so I appreciate the time and effort that you do, as well as Director Wheeler covering, since we do have that staffing gap. So I'm hoping that we can find somebody so that can alleviate you all from the work at hand and all the other things and tasks you have to do. So thank you for your work.
Thank you so much, Counselor. If I might, Mayor, thank you for recognizing Angelica. She walked in the door and it was probably within a couple of months that the director left, and she has been holding the team together and doing a really great job. We're super lucky to have her, former city clerk of Espanola. And she's also helping us begin the new records digitization project. And I'd also like to let you know that we did interview and have selected a really fantastic candidate who has actually accepted our offer and is working on a start date. And so we're really excited. He has deep expertise in parking, and I think he'll be a great addition to the city team.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Seeing no other hands, Madam Clerk, there's a motion, there's a second. Could you please call the roll?
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Mayor Worth,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. Next item, please, Madam Clerk.
He matters from the city manager.
Mr. City Manager, you have the floor. Thank you both for attending.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I apologize. I was expecting to do this at 10:30. Or had grown accustomed to that, I guess I'd say. A number of things to flag for you, just so you're aware. A little levity for the governing body. We received a call in January from the First Judicial District Court here in Santa Fe asking for some support around the trial related to the Rush shooting. And so there was a bit of a there were more media attending the trial than the court is used to. And so Chief Joy has been working with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department, which is taking the lead on this, about providing additional security at the courthouse and additional presence in the street as larger media masses show up. So for instance, this Friday, it's expected that the actor Alec Baldwin will be in attendance at the trial. And so we are highlighting for that day that there may be star or fans who want to see what's going on, and a lot of people who just want to see the circus of the trial, but probably a lot of media trucks. And so state police, county sheriffs, our police department are working in tandem about ensuring that the road there in front of the courthouse, that people can move safely, that traffic is moving safely. But just wanted to flag that for you before that sort of excitement comes to pass on Friday. And likely there will be 2 or 3 other days within the trial, if not more, where either Mr. Baldwin is in attendance or something else of interest is happening that will likely have to sort of ramp up that activity again. Want to flag for you, Councilor Villarreal had been kind enough to reach out to me to say that in previous years, the lobbyist for the city of Santa Fe had provided email updates to all of you. We reached out to JD Billington, who said happy to do it. I have one in my inbox that I have not been able to click forward to you yet, but those will start coming tonight and then about every other week, I think, through the remainder of the session. Santa Fe Day is this coming Monday, and I think all of you have been invited to, and those have RSVP'd who want to attend. If you think this sounds new for the first time, or either you think you can or can't come, or you are changing your answer, just let us know, as we're sort of working with the various chambers about ensuring there is seating there. My deputy manager has been working with tourism and others, ensuring that we have nice sort of Santa Fe goodie bags, for lack of a better term, for all the legislators. And I'll flag as a reminder for all of you as well that we did provide a free city parking pass to every legislator for the session and free access to the Fort Marcy complex so they can work out and be healthy. And so we're doing all we can to be there for our legislators so they can be there for us. I want to give a huge thank you to Director Wheeler, Tomas Martinez and his team at the Streets Division, particularly with these last few weeks with the snows that we've been having. It really is extraordinary to see the machinations of this go at midnight, at 2 a.m, at 4 a.m. And so these teams are out throughout the night, throughout the day, doing all they can to keep us safe. And I think they've really done a great job in light of the few storms that we've been having these last few weeks that have been bigger than normal. So thank you to them. So you are aware, a few weeks ago, you all voted in favor of a noise ordinance related to mufflers and around a bill about putting signage on city buildings related to guns. Deputy Manager Archuleta Maestas is leading the charge and coordinating both efforts to ensure that we're complying with those deadlines. So no updates for you tonight, just that we are working on both of those provisions, and we'll hope to have something for you very soon in that regard. I want to flag real quick, and I just want to sort of say a huge thank you as well to Director Oster's team. Juggling right now 2 audits while they are modernizing and improving the way in which we handle our money in the city of Santa Fe. It's a really heavy lift. On top of that, her team is now in the throes of the budget prep for the coming fiscal year, and it's a lot of work, and her team's putting in some really extraordinary hours under a lot of public scrutiny and a lot of pressure. And I just think from Director Oster on down, they're really handling it with a real level of grace and professionalism, and I'm grateful for what they're doing in that regard. I think, I can't remember, it seems like we met only yesterday, but I think it's been a couple of weeks. But I just wanted to flag from like a point of pride from the city of Santa Fe that a few weekends ago, we held a rapid hire event at the GCCC, and I hadn't been to one before. So I stopped and check it out. And it was so extraordinary how the work of our HR team, frankly, our IT team who was on site to make sure the technology worked. We had support from State Workforce Solutions there. That alone was such an extraordinary thing on a Saturday morning to see the team doing. But beyond that, you know, in light of some of the recent discussions we've had about activity at the GCCC, I walked around for a while, and literally at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, the parking lot was full. Every lane of the pool was full except for the deep end, where either the Army or the National Guard or some military unit was training about how to swim in full uniform across the pool with a gun in their hand. There were about 40 or so kids on the ice in various skating groups and lessons, 20 or 30 parents in the stands, plenty of people lifting weights and doing cardio. On the basketball court was divided into three. There were some kids playing basketball, a lot of adults playing pickleball, and I would tell you 30 or 40 kids playing soccer in the final court in a smaller, I couldn't tell if it was a real game or if it was a practice or what they were doing, but every inch of that facility was being used, and it just was, it's this weird thing. It just fills me with pride to see like how the city touches the community in the way that it's supposed to in a really good way. So I just wanted to share that story. The last thing I want to flag for you is that we have started our budget process. And so today was actually the first day that we began meeting with the budget, the department directors about their recommended budgets. And I just, from a perspective of what's coming, I think there's been, people are always very interested in the budget and what's going to happen and what's getting funded and who's doing what and touching that sort of stuff. And I just want to make sure we're on the same page on a couple of things. One of which is we have directed staff to be providing essentially flat budgets. And the reasoning behind that are a couple fold. One of which is, our GRT number for November was not what we wanted it to be. There has been continued discussion at the state and federal level about the possibility of a future recession. And so we're trying to be thoughtful so that if we're in the unfortunate situation where our GRT does go down, that we're not in a position that we're being asked to consider either cutting programs or cutting staff or furloughing or doing. So we're trying to be very cautious in that regard. I want to flag as well that one of the issues that we're sort of looking at, and I think some of you have already heard a notion about this, is that there are a number of bills working their way through the legislature right now that could potentially significantly cut our GRT. There is the current estimate right now is if one of these bills passes, it would off the top likely cut somewhere between $5 to $7.5 million from our general fund next year. And that's a real hit. And so we don't know where that is yet. It is working its way through. I believe it passed the House Tax Committee last Saturday, or was at least considered. It didn't pass. Let me take it back. It was considered, and it went through the traditional process of how the House Tax Committee works with an expectation it will come up in a package probably later. And so that's additional reason for us to be judicious in how we are trying to budget for the coming year. Beyond that, there are going to be a few things that are just citywide considerations that we have to look at, which is whether or not to give raises to all city employees across the board. If we do, how large is that raise? The last few years, as insurance costs have gone up, the city has continued to cover the increase in cost to avoid that happening to being passed on to employees. We do that again this year. There are additional costs this year around an increase in para contributions that the city is making on behalf of employees. So there are a number of things like that just across the board that are going to sort of be foundational things that affect our ability, that will sort of have a lot of determination on the front end as to how much money is there left to be creative about some of the exciting programming that I know both the mayor and you all want to do. So I just wanted to sort of throw that out there, that's some of what is working through our heads right now as we're beginning this process and trying to be judicious as we start trying to make some decisions and get ready for you all for the budget process. So that's it for me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Madam Clerk, I believe we now go to matters from the city attorney. And there she is.
Hi, Mayor, members of the governing body. A couple updates for me and then a recommendation for executive session. We did have a hearing this afternoon in the interfaith shelter matter with the, I'm seeing myself twice now. With a case that we're co-defendants with the interfaith shelter itself. Both parties had their motion to dismiss or motions for summary judgments granted, which means the case is dismissed with prejudice, which is great news. The city found itself in very good legal standing in that matter. Marcos Martinez argued it, and Andrea Salazar had been doing the briefing up until her last day with the city. So that's good news. Our positions are posted for the assistant city attorney position. It is in our bulletin this week, so please encourage any candidates that you think are qualified to apply. Connor Levy is leaving us, going back to Phoenix, so we have reposted that position. And he's leaving for personal reasons, so we wish him the best, but he'll be with us through Monday next week. So that position is also posted. Please also encourage folks to apply for that one. We have identified a finalist and made an offer for the legislation and policy innovation manager. So that's a contingent offer, and we'll make that announcement once the HR paperwork is finalized in that position. Those are my announcements. And then I also do recommend that we go into executive session for 2 different reasons. Parts H7 and H8 of the Open Meetings Act, section 1015(1), and that's returning client privilege, discussion of litigation, including the city of Santa Fe versus Purdue Pharma et al. And Duran Family Trust versus city of Santa Fe. And then the second thing is for discussion of disposition of property, in particular, the 500 Market Street Station property.
Thank you. When we get into executive session, we're going to have to check your voice quality. You were a little blurry just now, so we'll get you on a better mic. So the city attorney has recommended we go into an executive session. Councilor Rivera, do you have a motion to make?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we enter an executive session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, section 10-15-1H, subpart 7, for discussion of threatened or pending litigation in which the governing body is or may become a participant. And also subpart 8 for discussion of the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights by the governing body.
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yeah.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Carwood,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Very good. We will reconvene in the council meeting room. Mr. Blair, Counselor Garcia, we are streaming live. And I believe, Madam Clerk, do we have the city attorney with us on Zoom in this room? All right, so we're all present and accounted for. Counselor Rivera, I would entertain a motion from you. If you have one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1J, I move that the governing body reconvene in open session and state for the record that the matters discussed in the closed session were limited to those specified in the motion for closure.
There a second?
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I would entertain a motion to now go to petitions from the floor. It's 7:20 as we're emerging from our executive session. And rather than going through introductions of legislation, if we could jump to petitions from the floor and then come back, I think that would be appropriate. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to alter our agenda to bring petitions of the floor from the floor to the fore. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor McClure,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
So with that, Madam Clerk, keep an eye on the Zoom room to see if we have people waiting there as well. If there are people here tonight who wish to speak to something other than a hearing that will be before us later, but you wish to speak about other matters for 2 minutes, please come forward, give us your name, and you have the floor at 2 minutes per person.
It's very crowded here tonight, I can see. I don't know if you're hearing this later, but I wanted to make a statement about the resolution in relation to chart. Is that appropriate?
Very much so.
Of course, I want to talk about the skating rink too, but I've been told no, one thing at a time. Okay, so am I beginning now?
Yes, your time is starting.
I think the resolution is a step.
We need your
forward.
name for the record.
I am so sorry. My name's Elizabeth West, and that's it. Okay. I think the resolution is a step forward, and I thank you for that. Although I believe more discussion is in order concerning the obelisk. I attended one public viewing of the discussion the governing body convened, and that was a good start. I was impressed. Perhaps most important, it is crucial to remember that the obelisk is subject to federal and state protection as a structure central to the nationally and New Mexico historically registered plaza. The city must coordinate with those entities, I believe. I also think that the resolution is premature until the governing body engages with the New Mexico Historic Preservation Office. If that engagement has occurred, I would like to know where I can read about that. I might have missed it. The plaza and its history is important. Where we are now in February 2023 is part of the history of this structure, as is each strata of our varied experiences, starting with our old mountain and desert landscape on this beautiful part of the earth, upon which the ancestral Puebloan peoples and folks before them too, and the Spanish colonists, the Mexican families, later many others, often grouped together as Anglos, and making up what has become a multicultural place with specific memories we all share. One of which has been honored with the memorial to the soldiers who helped defend New Mexico from becoming a slave state. I also read the Artful Life response yesterday. It was sent to me in an email, and I want to speak with them further about some of their concerns. I am in favor of reconstructing the obelisk with new plaques or panels next to the old ones so that people can see the revisions of interpretations of our history. It's really fun. Teenagers love it. It's very, very interesting. What is complicated about our history needs to be embraced.
Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Councilors, Mayor, my name is Kevin Bowen. I am the Executive Director of the Human Rights Alliance, and I'm here to talk about Santa Fe City Resolution number 2023. I'm not here to talk about the obelisk. That's certainly a contentious issue and one I'm sure you all have had many sleepless nights over. I'm here to talk about what we think as an organization is one of the most important things that has come out of the chart process, and that is the Office of Equity and Inclusion for the City of Santa Fe. I'd like to thank the councilors who put forth this resolution and made this recommendation. It's important. I don't have to tell you, though, that we are now in a country where more than 340 pieces of legislation have been passed, not passed, but put forth to be passed this year in various states that are anti-LGBTQ. We have people changing our history in many states, including erasing Black history in states that will not be mentioned right now. Our concern is that this is such important and key legislation that if you're putting this through, let's make sure that we really delineate who will be benefiting from an Office of Equity and Inclusion. I will send you all an email tomorrow with some recommendations from our organization, but we need to name every group. Just collectively stating all, in our opinion, isn't enough. We need to name the groups: Black, Brown, people of color, Asian Pacific Islanders, LGBTQIA, Indigenous. The list could go on and on. You could synopsize it, but let's make this important for our city, and especially for the teens and the youth that are growing up here, to know that they were written in to legislation that could be groundbreaking here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You have the floor, sir.
My name is Tomas Slips, and I'm a stonemason with about 50 years' experience in the trade. Some of you may know I've been responsible for the Fountainhead Rock Project on Don Gaspar and Water Streets. I also worked on the restoration of the Kit Carson obelisk just down the street. And I'm kind of concerned about the what's happening with the obelisk. I've been following the chart posts, and my impression is it's been decided that it would be reassembled as well as possible using modern materials as a mending thing. And I kind of wonder if that's a good idea. For one thing, no matter how well that's done, it's going to look patched together. And it seems to me it would be a reminder of that unpleasant day when it was toppled. I'm also concerned about the stone. It's made with sandstone, which isn't the most durable of building materials. And that sandstone has been exposed to the elements and weathering for 150 years. I'm just wondering, is this decision made? And you going to go forward with this plan to reassemble it using the remnants or not? Can you answer me on that?
No, sir, this isn't a dialogue. This is your chance to address us.
Okay, well, in that case, and I don't know how much time I have, but I think there may be other ways. Thank you. I think there may be other ways of respecting the history of the plaza and of that object in the plaza, which should be actually rebuilding the obelisk in its shape, in its original shape, using different stone materials. What I had in mind was something using many smaller stones that would represent the populace and being in different geological materials, different shapes, different sizes, different colors. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, David Fresquez. I represent Age Friendly Senior Care, the Santa Fe Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and MASL Major Arena Soccer League. I want to start off with our Hispanic Chamber. So we are starting off with our Hispanic Chamber push. Yeah, if we can share this with the counselors, is that possible? Okay. 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 Thanks, Mayor. Sure, yeah. Thank you. So what we're looking for with the Hispanic Chamber is we'll be at the Convention Center this year in September. And we would love for one of the counselors to sponsor that event at the Convention Center. So thank you guys for that. And thank you for the continuing support that you showed us last year. Secondly, for the Major Arena Soccer League, I have information for each counselor. And one document reads Arena Soccer, Timeline, Transparency, and Due Diligence. These are handouts for you all. Also, the proposal that I presented to Mayor Weber and the city, that document is here as well. And then last document that reads Call for Leadership, Santa Fe Arena Soccer, Geneva Chavez Center Community Center, dated February 22nd. And that's a document, basically a rebuttal to a lot of the information in the Santa Fe New Mexican. So I would love to meet with each of you and go over all these documents in transparency and honesty. And thank you, each counselors, for all the work you do. I'm totally new at this, working with you guys. You guys are amazing doing what you guys do. So thank each of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll collect those documents subsequently.
I did 11 of them.
That's terrific. Thank you.
And I'll send it via email as well.
Very good. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have people, is there anybody else here who's waiting to participate in petitions from the floor? If not, Madam Clerk, are there people in our Zoom room at the moment?
Yes, Mayor, we have two. So the first one is Mr. Bob White.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. White.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and councilors, for this opportunity. I'm here to speak to the Soldiers Monument. I made a comment before the last, a written comment when the resolution was submitted. I have real concerns that, and it bothers me because some of the elements of what they are recommending were things that were in my proposal to chart. You know, the QR code, several of us, I think, recommended that. And, you know, I think it'll be a great addition. I think there are things about this proposal that could be good, but it's not going to work if y'all don't take it through the process that should have begun really about 2 years ago. But just announcing that healing and reconciliation has occurred is not going to go, and I'm really concerned if the monument goes back up that it's going to fall again by somebody's actions. And I would hope that the other thing that has to happen, that CHART put in their report, there has to finally be an independent investigation of what happened and what led to the top link. Because if we don't know what happened, if it wasn't assessed whether it was a proper response by an independent source looking at it, we don't know what's going to happen the next time that somebody gets it in their mind to destroy another object in Santa Fe, not just the Soldiers Monument, but anywhere in the city. What's the response going to be based on what happened last time? And I think it's really crucial that that is the first thing that happened. At the same time, you could bring the interest groups involved in this together to at least start talking about a structure for discussing it. Right now, all I'm hearing are people on two sides at the extreme saying they aren't going to accept it. And we really need to start getting the main bodies that represent the community, the city together. Chart tried, but didn't get that done, in my opinion. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for being with us. Who's next, Madam Clerk?
Miss Stephanie Benenato. Stephanie?
I forgot I had to unmute. Stephanie Benenato. I just want to bring some things to your attention. First of all, I have asked the city manager and the head of land use to meet with me. I asked about 2 weeks ago. I'm still waiting just to get like some available dates, and I think I'm being patient. Also, I think that constituent services is better, that there's often somebody answering the phone, but they keep wanting to have very positive statistics. So when somebody goes out and you say, look on the west side of this numbered block on this street, and they start looking for an address that doesn't exist, they mark that up as successful because they went out there and they resolved it. But in fact, they didn't resolve anything. They just didn't even pay attention to the words in the complaint or in the notice. And it should have been very obvious that they were looking at extremely damaged sidewalks and curbs. And then the other thing I'm curious about when Fort Marcy Pool will reopen, because we have to keep getting it pushed back. But then, I've heard about people who have gotten hired with the incentives. I don't know if they $1,500 before December or the end of December, but then they've worked for, 6 weeks, 2 months, unknown whether they quit or they were terminated. But I just wonder, does the city get any of that back? Do they hold it back for, a couple of months? I just really wonder about that part of the incentive program and how you assure us taxpayers that we're just not giving it to people and they are, out the revolving door within a very short time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Others in the Zoom room at this time? No one? Okay. In that case, let's resume our regular order, which would be matters from the city clerk, I believe.
No, Mayor, if I could, we actually have several action items coming out of executive session.
Oh, yes. Okay, why don't you walk us through those then?
Sure. The first item is item 13A. It's request for approval of a settlement agreement in the Duran Family Trust versus City of Santa Fe D-101-CV-2021-02418, selling the city's property interest in 730 Alto Street for $490,000.
There a motion? I have heard a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Chavez has seconded. Is there discussion? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilor Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Marworth,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Councilor Cassett. Sorry, Councilor Chavez,
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Lindell,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved. The next item is item 13B. It's request for approval of a settlement agreement in City of Santa Fe versus Purdue Pharma with Albertsons LLC for $296,719.13.
Move to approve.
I'd point out it's actually a request as typed at the moment. But I think we know what you mean. There's a motion, there's a second. Is there discussion of the motion to approve the request?
Mayor, who was the second on that? I was laughing. Councilor Merwin and Rivera was the main motion.
Second. That was a second.
You were the motion, you were the second. Okay, yes. Yeah, okay, no worries.
Is there discussion? Could you call the roll?
Yes, Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Councilor Chavez,
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Lindell, Counselor Rivera, Counselor Marworth,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. Item C,
Yes, item C is request for approval of a settlement agreement in City of Santa Fe versus Purdue Pharma with CVS Pharmacy and its affiliates for $286,828.49.
Move to approve.
Second.
there's a motion to approve and there's a second. Is there discussion on this item? If not, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Counselor Chavez, Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Marworth,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. Item D,
Item D is request for approval of a settlement agreement in City of Santa Fe versus Purdue Pharma with the Kroger Co. and its affiliates for $1,157,204.61.
Move for approval.
Second.
there's a motion and a second. Is there discussion on this item? Seeing no hands, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Sorry, if you can't tell, I think I'm losing my voice during the meeting. Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Rivera, Counselor Marworth,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. And then the last one in the executive session action items is E.
That's correct. This is also a request of approval for a settlement agreement in City of Santa Fe versus Purdue Pharma with Walmart Incorporated and its affiliates for $2,041,427.61.
Move for approval.
Second.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Is there discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Marworth.
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal.
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia, Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. That completes those action items coming out of the executive session. Thank you for flagging that. And then I guess we do go, Madam Clerk, to anything you would like to call to our attention.
Yes, I do have a few items that I would like to note. One is we do have our memorial, COVID-19 Memorial Day event on Monday, March 6th at noon on the Santa Fe Plaza. You all should have this hold on your calendar. But the governing body in February of 2021 unanimously adopted a resolution designating the first Monday in March as COVID Memorial Day. So this event is held to remember all that have passed away, fallen ill, or continue to suffer from the impact of COVID. We also honor essential workers. I also want to just note that we do have our annual Easter egg event that will be on Saturday, April 1st. It's going to be held at MRC this year and will start at 10 a.m. We also are doing, my department started doing a Touch the Truck event in conjunction with the Easter egg hunt. We're going to continue that. We've had great success with that event. So just save the date. I'll also be reaching out if you want to volunteer to put Easter eggs down on the fields. So I know many of you like volunteering for that. I also want to note that Constituent Services is going to start our satellite hours. We're doing a soft launch next week, and then we will move forward with a full rollout the following week. We're going to be at GCC on Mondays, Lafarge Library on Tuesdays, the main library on Wednesdays, and the Southside Library on Thursdays. And Constituent Services will be there from 3 to 7 p.m. I am so excited about this. I really think that it's important for us to be out in the community. And I'm really excited that 3 of our locations are going to be focusing on both our kind of Midtown and South Side of Santa Fe. So as I mentioned, we're doing a soft launch next week. Make sure we get everything worked out. And then we're going to be announcing the satellite office hours moving forward. So I also want to note that we announced the living wage today for the city of Santa Fe. It's $14.03. I just want to take a quick moment to thank Alexis and Clarence from Finance. There was some confusion between the city and county, and we paused, and we were able to walk the county through that process to make sure that we were both on the same page. So I really appreciate both the county reaching out for assistance and the assistance that our staff was able to provide with that. And then, sorry, I had a lot tonight. Hopefully I have a voice at the end of this. I also just want to note that we do have the GCC Summer Youth Hiring event on Saturday, and we have registration open for the Youth Spring Break Camp. You might notice that we're pushing out a lot of information now from the city of Santa Fe, and I think a huge part has been the restructure of our communication team and just putting members in place. So we're seeing a lot of consistency with flyers, announcements, social media, and it's something I'm really proud of. We're working with every department across the city, which is really, really exciting. The last thing I want to mention is I want to share, and I'm going to do a quick share screen for something that is very important to us. Let's see, I'm going to let that start really fast. We'll be mailing this, but I would like to acknowledge Mr. Carl Boaz. He has been our stenographer for the city of Santa Fe for many, many years. He's officially retiring from being our stenographer. I just want to note that Mr. Boaz has 3 degrees and he's also a retired minister. He became our stenographer after his retirement. We're also wanting to wish him well because he is retiring officially at the very young age of 83. And I really just can't thank Carl enough for his contributions to the city and the city clerk's office. He's been with us for a very long time and we're very appreciative. So we do have a Muchísimas Gracias award for him. As I mentioned, we'll be providing the hard copy to him, but I would just like to take a moment to read it. And it says, "Thank you for the many years of invaluable and essential transcription services you have provided to the city of Santa Fe. The meeting minutes you've documented are a record of how the city conducts business for the constituents of the city of Santa Fe. Your service to the city will continue to be a significant resource for years to come. We appreciate your dedication to the city." So just like to again thank Carl for his service to our community and to the Board of County Commissioners, to the City Council. So that's all I have for today, Mayor.
Thank you. And we all agree with you about Carl. Communications from the governing body. Let's go down the line. We'll start at the far end with Councilor Chavez and work our way this way.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start with thanking Carl and send a big congratulations to him as well. And then the only thing I really have is this is a very important week to me because my baby boy turns 11 years old on March 5th. He is becoming a teenager really now. It's not just his attitude that it's a little scary. Mom's having a hard time, but I want to wish him a very happy birthday and just thank him for his heart and just the beauty he's added to all of our lives. So just a happy birthday to Gray. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera, whose birthday do you want to call out?
I'll let you know in a minute. I also wanted to say congratulations to Carl. I think one of the hardest things about COVID was not seeing you sitting in your normal chair there by the city clerk. So, but I'm glad you've been able to continue to do your work, and you've been so valuable to the city, and you're going to be missed, and your shoes are going to be tough to fill. So, but good luck with retirement. I also wanted to congratulate Councilor Michael Garcia, who became chair of SWAMA for 2023. So he'll take on that role and he'll do a great job. I know he's been on that committee for a little bit, so look forward to his leadership there. And then lastly, wanted to wish our colleague Amanda Chavez a happy birthday on March 3rd. So whopping 21 years old. Her son's catching up to her. Your son's catching up to you. All right, Mayor. Thank you.
You, Counselor. I knew I could count on you. Counselor Garcia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Rivera, for the kind words. Definitely look forward to continuing to work with you on the SWAMA board. Carl, just so ironic, I was leaning over to Councilwoman Villarreal earlier and saying, oh, I miss seeing Carl over there. So Carl, I think, is it his last meeting or, oh man, we should have had you here for his last meeting just to recognize him. But hopefully our paths will cross soon, Carl, and enjoy your retirement, well-deserved retirement. Thank you for everything you did for the city, and just really appreciated getting to know you over the years. Other than that, just to the community, please be safe. As folks who were out earlier, there was some pretty devastating winds that impacted our city. I think driving over here, I saw 3, maybe 4 downed trees. It's one of those things where you can't be prepared, but just make sure that everybody is safe. And thankfully there wasn't too much major damage, and everybody please be safe driving home tonight. The roads are already getting icy and slick, and yeah, that's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. Carl, you're gonna miss, I think, us. I think you're gonna miss the show, all of the important and exciting and frustrating. And I mean, there was never a dull moment, probably taking notes, and you will be able to tell stories till the end of time about the things that you experienced and watched and observed as a stenographer. And I just appreciate all the work that you've done with us, and you will be missed. And I hope that you get to enjoy the next phase of whatever adventures you take on. And I wish you so much love. Thank you. Also, happy birthday, Councilwoman Chavez. And so that's exciting. How old are you really going to be? 21? Okay, we'll just stick with 21. I hope you have a wonderful day and get some time off. The other thing I wanted to say is wish the Santa Fe High School boys basketball team. They're playing for the semifinal district game tonight in Albuquerque. I wish I was watching you. So exciting. I hope that they play well and they beat Rio Grande tonight. And then the constituent services event, is that going to be posted? I hope it's going to be posted on social media, so folks know about that. I think it's a good opportunity to get out in the community, like you said. And then the living wage, it takes effect today, March 1st. Okay, just want to make sure. That's all. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Councilor Lee Garcia, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations, Carl. Happy retirement, and get some things done that you've always wanted to do in retirement. Wanted to wish our Catholic Christian community a good and safe Lenten season. And last note, I wanted to give kudos to my daughter who left us yesterday to go study abroad in Seoul, South Korea. 15 hours in the future. When I'm saying good morning, it's good night already. So she left yesterday, and my wife and I and my son saw her off at the airport, and just a kudos to her because she did it all on her own, and she'll be out there for 10 months and come back and finish her college education when she gets back. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Adding to the whole Asian contingent between you and Councilor Rivera, I think there's something going on here. I see a trip in the future between all of you all. Councilor Merworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say congratulations, Carl. Thank you so much for your service over all the years you've been at the city. Well-deserved retirement. We're going to miss you. I don't know if you'll miss us. Maybe you will. But just thank you. It's that job is a tough one, and just really appreciate all you've done for the city over the years. And then, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't point out that it's the city manager's birthday tomorrow. And I'm hoping not to be present when it is his birthday at 12:01. So just want to get this in now. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Lindell.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, happy birthday, Counselor Chavez. And Carl, you've got a future in professional poker because I watched you for years sit there and I never saw your jaw drop. I never saw your eyebrows go up. I never saw you cry. I never saw you burst out laughing. You got a future in poker for sure. Thank you very much. Your service has you put a lot of time into us. You put a lot of time into the city, and really and truly, it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you very, very much. And I wanted to report. I always say, talk about the snowplow cruise. Well, last week I had the chance to jump on one of the plows, and I rode with a gentleman named Esteban, and we did Sierra del Norte, and those hills are daunting. I mean, to be in a dump truck full of cinders on incredible slick grades. These guys are so skilled, and they make it look like it's second nature to them, like it's breathing for them. It was truly impressive. They're cheerful. They see people, they help them, they wave at them. People are so glad to see them. My suggestion is next year that we have a citywide contest to name the snowplows. And I think that, there's some great names out there. Betty Whiteout, Scoop Dog, No More Mr. Ice Guy. There's lots of choices for having a citywide, one of my favorites, the Big Leplowski. I think next year it's a citywide contest for naming the snowplows. But I'm really thankful to that entire division. The safety they provide us is really unbelievable. And they do it so cheerfully and with such skill. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Councilor. I noticed you said the street we plowed. I think that was great of you to take the wheel for a while and make sure it was done properly.
No one wants that.
I hope everybody on the governing body will join with me after, assuming we don't go till 12:01, but we'll all assemble down there and sing serenade both our city manager and our counselor with their birthday wishes. I think we could really bring the evening, depending on how late we go, we could bring the evening to a happy birthday conclusion. That's a lovely confluence. A couple things I would love to call attention to. The Literary Festival, second annual, tickets are for sale. Last year was a remarkable, phenomenal event. It really demonstrated not just literature, but the storytelling heritage of Santa Fe. It was all kinds of storytelling and all kinds of folks participated. They're back for a second year, really doing us all a great service by putting on another festival that only Santa Fe could pull off. Similarly, we just celebrated the first Art and Soul Festival, 3 musical organizations collaborating to bring us all kinds of music, everything from classical to jazz to singing to purely orchestral. I'm confident that will continue for another year at least, or into the future. And we're still in the throes of our film festival. So it's festival season for Santa Fe, and everybody should take advantage of the incredible art and culture that we have the great pleasure of having in our community, courtesy of all these great folks who do it on their own. I would call out over the weekend, I had a great fun of participating in an announcement of a great partnership, a 2-1-1 partnership. And Councilor Maraworth was there. City, county, and United Way joining together to offer a simple way to help people who need help. You can donate money, you can dial 211 if you need help. And it's the Connect Network collaborating with United Way. Another way to show how much we care about people who need help in our city. And you have a button to prove that you took the button. I gave my button back, but anyway, it was a great event, and it's a tremendous success going forward. Last thing I want to call attention to, it feels like we are a government and a community that we're very aware of things when they go wrong, but we don't always call attention to things when they go right. And it's fair to be very self-critical. It's also important to be self-congratulatory when it's merited. We just celebrated a successful Munis upgrade. This is a big deal that's often invisible to the community because it's a software platform. That's not very exciting. But if this upgrade had not gone smoothly and with great success managed by our IT team and a boost from an outside consultant, all of the functions that we depend on for that platform to deliver, everything from payroll to basic functions of the city, would have been seriously compromised. And I think we really can't let it go by without congratulating the team that made it happen. They continue to test it. They continue to check to make sure that the installation is ongoing, smooth, and without problems. It's never without problems, but without really crippling problems. So it is a major technological upgrade, and good for our guys for making our team, male and female, guys of all kinds, for making it happen. We're going to have a non-gender specific language. I don't know whether guys qualifies, but our folks for getting it done. Big shout out for them. It's a big deal, largely invisible, but incredibly important. That completes my report, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Weber, if I could, Mr. Boaz has his hand up, and I think he would probably like to just speak to everyone. So if that's allowable.
I think it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't do it because we're all celebrating.
I agree. Carl, if you want to.
Yay!
Hi, Carl.
Thank you so much. I really have appreciated working with all of you. You're great friends. You've been very supportive, and I'm looking forward to taking a few days off.
Well, come by and see it whenever you get it. Whenever you feel like you need to reconnect with old buddies, come on by. We'd love to see you.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you for all your help and all your service. Happy
God
return.
bless all of you.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Yes, City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just make a quick point of information, just so folks are aware, our streets crews are out right now. Actually, there was some snow melt today because of the warm weather. And so the team will be working through the night for ice control for tomorrow morning. So the street should be safe to go in the morning. We don't anticipate any other weather, but as always, we encourage people to be safe. But that's what we're looking towards for tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think Councilor Lindell will be flagging down a truck as soon as the meeting's over. Okay, Madam Clerk, back to the order of business.
Yes, we are on to introduction of legislation. Item 16A is consideration of a bill. It's bill number 2023-10, sponsored by Mayor Weber. It's a bill approving the sale of a city-owned building and improvements located at 730 Alto Street within the city and county of Santa Fe, New Mexico, by the city of Santa Fe to the Duran Family Trust as a condition of a settlement agreement.
Yeah, I just quickly point out that this is a title designed to make sure we have the correct details with regard to this transaction, and we'll be moving it through the process.
Perfect. Item 16B is consideration of a resolution sponsored by Mayor Weber. It's a resolution in support of Governor Lujan Grisham's call to pass gun reforms, including a ban on the sale of assault weapons.
Thank you. Let me speak to this briefly. There are three bills in this package. HB 9 is parent accountability for minors accessing guns and shooting people. SB 116 raises the purchase age for semi-automatic weapons. And there is, there is also HB 101, which is an assault weapon ban. This resolution would put us on record as supporting this package of measures. I think it's incumbent upon us to, as a governing body, step up to the tremendous problem we continue to see in the country and in our own state and community around gun violence. For those of you who didn't see it, December 18th issue of the New York Times Magazine was devoted entirely to gun violence in America, pointing out that in the first story, since 2020, gun violence has surpassed car accidents as the leading cause of death for American children. I know that these measures, much like the resolution we passed earlier, none of these will be a panacea, but I think we are obligated morally and on the basis of our roles we play, which Councilor Mayerworth reminded of us in her very touching introductory prayer this evening. We have positions of responsibility, and gun suicide, gun accident, and gun homicide are preventable, and we should do everything we can to prevent them. So this resolution will also be making its way through the committee process to the governing body. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, moving on. The next item is final action on legislation. This is a public hearing, so this is consideration of a bill number 2023-4. It's to adopt an ordinance sponsored by Councilor Cassett and Councilwoman Villarreal. It's an ordinance amending SFCC 1987 to use gender neutral language.
This is a public hearing. Maybe we'll first get a quick introduction of the bill. We'll let the sponsors speak to it, and then we'll take testimony and a motion. Sponsors, do you want to tee it up for us? Sponsor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think I said this when we introduced this legislation. It's long overdue to make sure that when we're talking about in our city code, that it's really referencing folks that's more inclusive and diverse and representative. I think the majority of the gender specific language in the city code, as you saw from the attachment, it's male specific. Most language references are directed in a male context, such as firemen, policemen, and we're making just minor adjustments to make, like in these two examples, to say firefighter and police officer. Other examples included are in the code, it talks about chairman instead of just saying chair. So we made those changes. And then all references that actually specify he or she without any specific context, we will be changing them to they or them. And this may be insignificant change to some, but representation does matter. And when you read a code and the language in a code, and it only acknowledges men or males in leadership roles, then you know that there's something wrong. So I think this is important, just an easy fix to be able to promote diversity and inclusion in our community as it relates to our code and the language we use. I also want to note that when we start looking at chapter 14, that I noticed some nuances there. And so as we go through the code rewrite, staff is also going to be looking at that as we move forward. So.
Thank you. Good way to tee it all up. Are there folks either on the Zoom room or in the room who would like to speak to this bill? This is a public hearing. Anyone in the Zoom room, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor, Miss Stephanie Beninatto would like to speak to this item.
Hi, Stephanie Beninatto. Do I have to get sworn? Hello, can you hear me?
We can. No, Stephanie, it's just a public hearing.
Okay. I too think that it's long overdue to make these changes to the language. It does matter how you say things. It does have an impact on a person's psyche to always be hearing male-dominated language. And in the state code, which they've been changing for like over 15 years now, if they have instead of they or them, they just say the officer, the agent, the whatever, the official, the secretary, so that there's no pronoun actually used. It's just the noun again used in that language. So anyway, I'm happy that it's being done. Thank you very much for doing this. And yes, the land use code needs updating in that way too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Madam Clerk, in the Zoom room with a hand up? No? Anyone here speak to this item? Is there a motion?
I'd like to move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion to approve and there's a second. Is there any further discussion from the governing body?
Mayor,
Yes,
just wanted to thank Pat Fagali for taking the time to work on this, and for Councilwoman Cassett, who's not with us tonight, for leading the effort and including me in this process. So thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? I would just say, I think it's long overdue as well. I think it's something that affects, it's not just equal rights for one gender or another. It is the right way to think about everybody being included. And so thank you for bringing it forward. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Merworth,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal.
Yeah.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you. I'm wondering, before we go to the next public hearing, if we wanted to perhaps entertain flipping the last item on the agenda, which is an appointment. We could get it out of the way and then not have it hanging over us.
So moved.
Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on that motion?
Yes, Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Merworth,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
So if you could read the appointments to the Economic Development Advisory Committee, we could entertain a motion and then discuss.
Yes, we have three term appointments or three appointments to the Economic Development Advisory Committee. All three of them are appointments with terms expiring in June of 2024. We have Shayna Sasser, Alexander Howell, and John Lonerag.
Lonergan. Is there a motion? There's a motion to approve these nominations or these appointments. Is there a second?
Second.
I will just say, I know Counselor Cassett wanted to be here for these. This is a committee she chairs. She is she did a really significant amount of due diligence to entertain nominations, to interview people, to try to balance the composition of this group. And so we are voting on them in her absence, but not without her approval and knowledge of these appointees. Is there further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on these appointments?
Yes, Counselor Merworth,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, for flipping that order. We can now take up the land use case without anything following it. So, Madam Clerk, if you'll read this public hearing, and then I'll walk through the process we'll be using.
Yes. This is item 20A. It's case number 2022-006060 HDRB. This is 1160 Camino de Cruz Blanca. Mass Group Agent for St. John's College requests exceptions to SFCC 1987, Section 14-5.2D2 for additions to the north, south, and east elevations at the Peterson Student Center, a significant building located in the Historic Review District. And Ms. Heather Lamboy, our Assistant Land Use Director, is available for this item.
Terrific. Let me just, as usual, walk through our process so there's no ambiguity, and then we'll kick it off with the staff report. As you all know, on the governing body, but for those who are not familiar with this process, it is a case where the governing body first begins by acknowledging if they have been biased or communicated with in any way to prevent them from being fair and impartial. They would recuse themselves now. Then we'd start with the land use report of no more than 20 minutes, follow with the applicant sworn and giving an opening statement and presentation, again in that 20-minute time zone. It's a public hearing. We'll take sworn public comment, then questions by the governing body of staff of the parties, whether it's witnesses or the public. At the point in time when the governing body has asked all the questions to clarify the issue, I will close the public hearing and then entertain a motion and discussion leading to a final vote. So that's the process we use in these hearings.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
could we have Aaron just talk about our role here?
Okay. Always useful to remind the
If she's
public.
still on, I don't know. Okay.
Aaron, if you wanted to just one more time, per usual, describe what makes these cases and our role in them different, that would be helpful to anyone who's watching or listening for the first time.
Sorry to make you put you on the spot again.
It's okay. Thank you, Mayor, Councilors. My voice is, I'm real stuffy right at the moment, but this is a quasi judicial proceeding, meaning that there are established laws that apply to how the decision should be made. And in this case, rather than deciding new policy or new laws, the governing body is applying the existing laws to the facts presented during this hearing, and then also in the record from in this case, it's the Historic Districts Review Board that made a recommendation that's coming to the governing body.
Okay. And I think the last thing that the city attorney pointed out is right. This is a recommendation coming to us from a different body that has already rendered an opinion, and we now have to render our own. So with that, Ms. Lamboy, you have the floor for, let's say, 20 minutes to walk us through this.
Good evening, Mayor Weber and members of the City Council. I'm here to present an exception request that was proposed, or that were proposed, their requests in association with some additions at the Peterson Student Center on the St. John's College campus. This is in the Historic Review District. Just for a little bit of background and context, it was determined by the Assistant City Attorney, Frank Rubelet, that over a long number of years, the city has been inappropriately applying code, and that exceptions of design and preservation need to be heard by the governing body, similar to what you would find in a land use case with a rezoning, where there's a land use body that makes a recommendation, and then the governing body is the final decision relative to that recommendation. So this is going to be cured. We will be taking, I've taken already to the Historic Districts Review Board some proposed language for a text amendment to the code to give the HDRB the authority for, granting exceptions for design and preservation. The only thing that they have jurisdiction over right now is height. And so when that height ordinance was adopted back in the late 1990s, and I was part of that then too, the rationale was that the H board could, judge that height was appropriate for particular streetscapes in those particular cases. So the Planning Commission will be hearing the text amendment on March 2nd, and then it will be coming to the governing body by the end of March or the beginning of April, just depending upon notice. So back to the matter at hand. St. John's College is located on the eastern portion of town off of Camino de Cruz Blanca. You can see the overall vicinity map. It's located to the east of Camino Monte Sol, and the campus is sort of at the base of Atalaya Mountain. The applicant is proposing additions on the east, south, and north elevations. And these elevations will be 1 story in height, so it will be lower than the height of the existing building of 2 stories. The south elevation addition will be in the place of what is known as the Shep's Garden, and I have a photo for you in just one moment. And this elevation, the purpose is to accommodate for changing student needs. So it is intended to be a study lounge for students, as you know, from when we went to college versus our kids go to college, there's different expectations associated with the experience of the university. So that's a primary reason. The other thing is that there are components within the building that they don't want to disturb. Alexander Gerard murals, which are really important to the heritage of the town because he was very much an important artist in our community, as well as, it's a defining feature of the Peterson Center. We don't, as the Historic Districts Review Board, have jurisdiction over interiors, but that was considered as part of the granting of the exception criteria in terms of the options that were available to the applicant. So this is an illustration, photos of that south elevation where the proposed addition is going to be tucked into that sort of U-shaped area. You can see there's a garden and a tree, and that will be removed, and the addition will be a 1-story addition in there. And here is an elevation drawing of that. So at the top is the existing condition, and at the bottom, you can see that 1-story addition that is actually not going to be touching the buildings except for where it is attached. The Student Center has gone through evolution over time, and before the building of Levant Hall, the Student Center actually had a garden and a courtyard, and there was no access between the Levant Hall area and the Peterson Center itself. So, but it's sort of hard to see in these pictures, but you can see some stairs going off towards the south there that would access sort of that change in grade that should go back towards the dorms. And so when Levant Hall was built, then the site was regraded. And as a result, this access here was closed off because the grade had changed. And at that time, the St. John's College did not determine that it was important to have that access. But as it has come to pass that in a reevaluation of the whole situation in terms of egress and safety and accessibility, that this exit would be important. And so it's not just this section for accessibility, but there are also improvements throughout the building to accommodate for the Americans with Disabilities Act. The east elevation, actually, there was a portal here, and it was enclosed after the original construction of the building in the 60s. And so what they're going to do is sort of reintroduce that feature, that portal you can see here on the proposed drawing. And then, of course, the stair access, which was previously there, will be reintroduced in this context. And finally, St. John's College wishes to expand their fabulous bookstore. I'm a very big fan. And so they will be adding an addition to the north elevation to accommodate for both the bookstore as well as expanded coffee shop area. So, and just for, so you can understand where the Girard murals are, here at the bottom, there's a hallway and that's where some of them are, but then there's also some character defining features here in the center of the space that the applicant does not want to disturb. This is the approach to St. John's College of Cruz Blanca, and the area of the addition will be nestled into this corner here at the northeast corner of the building. And the east elevation illustrates the addition of the bookstore. So on the lower right, you can see here that the mass will step, and it will have similar architectural treatments to the historic building itself. And here's a detail of that north elevation illustrating how that will fit in with the building. So in order to accomplish this is a significant building for the purposes of the Historic Districts Ordinance. Significant buildings cannot have any additions on any elevations. I mean, the intent is to really regulate how the building changes. But the applicant provided rationale that the Historic Districts Review Board agreed with, that the exceptions were the best approach in terms of meeting the demands of the student body and finding a balance with the historic preservation of the building. So an exception to section 14-5.2 D2, an exception to construction additions on primary facades, an exception 5.2 D5 to replace windows that are not duplicated in size, style, and material of the original. And that would be the removal of the historic windows on the inside of where those additions are. An exception to 5.2 D5 to remove historic materials, and to permit a new construction that would be undertaken in a manner that the original form and integrity of the property and environment would be unimpaired. There would be very minor impairment, and they probably could reestablish it, but that is another exception that would be required. The Historic Districts Review Board found, on the basis that all of the review criteria and the exception criteria have been met, and recommended to the governing body that the additions be approved. And that concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you very much. And now we will hear from the applicant or applicant's representative. And if you can be as succinct as Ms. Lamboy, you will win widespread applause. And you have to do a little swearing in.
Yeah. I don't even need the slides.
No, but you need to be sworn in.
Okay, yes. Repeating after you, or I'm just reading the, okay. Oh, very nice. I'm Sean Evans, residing at 1121 North Luna Circle. I solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony I have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Mayor, councilors, Heather did such a great job explaining the process. I don't know that I have anything more to say. I would like to reinforce the importance for these additions, as Ms. Lamboy stated. This building is over 60 years old. A lot has changed about what student expectations are, and it's critical that St. John's be able to evolve and meet the needs of students while balancing that with the very important historic character of the college. We believe we've done that. We, as Ms. Lamboy did state, from a preservation perspective, our primary goal is to preserve the interior of the building, which is why the building was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Lastly, I'd just like to say that our recommendation from approval from the H board was 3 months ago to the day. And this process is woefully extended and desperately needs to be corrected. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
thank you. At this point, then, what we will do is take testimony from the public. If there's anyone here or on Zoom who would like to have an opportunity to comment on the proposal, we'll swear you in and give you 2 minutes to speak to the issue in front of us.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth West, residing at Senna Street in Santa Fe. Solemnly, I declare and affirm that the testimony I have in reference to this item will be the truth and nothing but the truth. And I do this under the penalties of perjury.
Thank you.
I just can't see anything wrong with this. So I think this is supporting a marvelous institution in our town, one of many, many things, items, structures, whatever, that I've appreciated. And when I first came here in 1966, I had long hair and I had graduated from a college back east and I fit right into St. John's. They had just begun. And one of the best compliments I had was, "Are you a John?" So anyway, I think this looks great. And the little bit of viewing that I got to see of the elevations, I think it's remarkably well done. I don't need to name names, but I sort of wish some of the care with which these drawings have been done were a hallmark of other presentations. So that's mostly a positive comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience or in the Zoom room who wants to be sworn in and speak on the proposal in front of us?
Hi, Mayor. Miss Stephanie Beninato would like to comment on this item.
Okay, can you swear her in?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Ben has it up on the screen. Stephanie, will you, I'll swear you in. Will you say aye and state your name and then note your street name?
Yeah, I, Stephanie Beninato on Don Diego.
You solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth, nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I'm opposed to this, and I really think that if you're going to allow this, that you need to send it back to the historic board for a status review. You are allowing a significant structure to be obscured on 3 of the 4 primary facades. That in itself should signal a status review. The board didn't want to do that because it would take more time because there would have to be notice. There was no evidence. The evidence is that somehow all these additions should be allowed to this particular building. There wasn't any really talking about putting all of these functions perhaps in a nearby building, things like that. There is no evidence of hardship, which is really important. The board does not there's no law that says that they should be caring about an interior wall, whether it's plaqued, not plaqued, it doesn't really matter. They're supposed to be looking at the actual outside facades. And if they're changed that much, really, there should be a status downgrade and then looking at these exceptions so that we don't care that it's a historic building. The board, there's no authority for the board or for you really to preserve a significant institution. It's about preserving a significant building. And again, I'm asking you at least to send it back for status review. And then let them decide if after they do 3 additions on even a contributing building, whether the building will be contributing. So let's at least be honest about this building. We will be losing a significant building because St. John's can't function without it. It's not the board's, excuse me, can I just finish? Can I please? It's not the board's authority. And again, it's just outside the law without evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the Zoom room? Anyone else in this room? Very well. I turn to the governing body for questions of either staff or the applicant or those who have testified. If we could go down as we've done in the past, either just go down the row. If you have a series of questions, we'll try to handle them 10 minutes per person like we have done. Councillor Lee Garcia, do you have anything you'd like to start us out with, sir?
At the moment, sir, thank you.
Councillor Mayorworth, do you have things you want to start us out with? Waiting? Okay. Councillor Linda. All right. Councilwoman Villarreal, you have the floor.
The only question I had was answered by Heather Lamboy, because I was wondering why we were actually even hearing this case. And so we're going to correct it in the code from what I understand, so that we don't have to be hearing already approved historic board cases. Is that correct?
Ms. Lamboy?
Mayor Weber, Councilmember Villarreal, that is correct. There are a couple of cases in the interim that you'll be seeing me a couple more times before we can get this adopted. But yes, the correction's underway.
Great. Thank you for your work on that.
All good. Councillor Michael Garcia, sir, you have the floor.
No questions, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Rivera, do you want to pepper the witnesses with questions?
Well, I just had one question, but I can't find it now. It had to do with one of the comments, Ms. Lamboy, that one of the members made to ask you about, and you said you haven't seen the second set of drawings yet to confirm or be able to answer the question. And I don't know if you recall what I'm talking about, but if I can find it here. You can go on to.
Yeah, we'll come back to you, sir. Councillor Chavez? Nothing at the moment? Councillor-
Nothing at the moment. Thank you.
All right.
Make something up so you can buy me some time.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I could,
Councillor Mayorworth, you have the floor.
so we just heard in public comment and in the packet materials, there is a conversation among the historic board members about the significance of the building and changing its status because of the changes to the facades. Can you just address what that conversation was about and how I think, you know, the board member who raised it initially somehow got an answer that changed thinking and maybe resolved the issue, but it's kind of hard when I didn't watch the Zoom of the hearing. So can you provide some context and help us understand what that issue was about and why it didn't seem to ultimately change the vote of the particular board member that raised it initially?
Mayor, Councilmember Romero Worth, the conversation was, and rightly so, Stephanie Beninato points out that, it was considered to be a downgrade, but the ultimate decision by the board was that even though this would be an exception for an addition to a significant building, they felt that the building is such defining, has such defining character on the campus and has such historic importance associated with the people who are involved with its design, John Galmim and McHugh. And its role in the community, that the building remains significant. And so that extra, review can be applied in future cases. And the opinion of, I was asked whether I thought this would, as a professional, would cause a downgrade of the building. And my opinion is would not. And the majority of the board agreed that even with the additions, the status of the building would not be downgraded.
And I believe there was a further conversation about the interior and its significance as a very important designation as well, that this is a multi-factored assessment and that the interior would in no way be impaired.
Yes, Mayor, that is correct. And also, just like Mr. Evans referenced that this is on the National Register of Historic Places. And although we at local government level do not regulate interiors, the conversation relating to interiors had to do with why the additions had to go on the exterior and why things couldn't be moved around the site.
Thank you. Mr. Counselor Rivera, you found it.
Thank you. It's on page 20 of the hearing packet, and it's Chair Rios, and maybe this is what Councilwoman Romero Worth was talking about. Asked Ms. Lambo if she felt this building would remain significant with what had been presented. And your answer was that you hadn't reviewed in detail the second set of drawings, and that your concern is only to be sure it is distinguishable and not replicates exactly what is there. You would need to study the reference to the historic status, but thought they were on the right track. Are these second drawings some of the ones you referred to in your presentation?
Mayor, Councilmember Rivera, there was a couple of designs. So there was an informational session we had with the Historic Districts Review Board in order to go over the options, because this is sort of a complicated case. We wanted some initial feedback from the board. And so Mr. Evans was able to have that conversation with the board. And so the design evolved over time. And so the set of drawings that I presented to you tonight is that a final set that was approved by the HDRB.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for the clarification. Other questions?
Mayor, I think I still had the floor when you stole it
Apologies.
and gave it to someone else.
I apologize profusely. You have the floor.
Thank you. So back to my original question about the significance of the building. There was also public testimony that the reason why there wasn't a status review is it would take too long. Is that accurate, or that they resolved the issue of that it wasn't gonna lose the significance of the building by making these changes, therefore a status review wasn't necessary? I mean, I don't know, we heard public comment that there wasn't a status review because it would take too long, but maybe it wasn't an issue. I don't know what's.
Mayor, Councilmember Romero Worth, if I remember the conversation correctly, there was a point that was made about how the case would have to be renoticed in order to do a status review. And the general consensus of the HDRB was that would not be necessary. But there was conversation about time in that context, but the board ultimately felt comfortable acting on the case without a status change.
Okay, and I mean, when you said these changes are not going to change the significance of the building or the status, because of the people involved, that's an interesting statement. We don't usually look at the people involved, do we, in terms of whether a building stays significant? Don't we look at the architecture?
So Mayor, Councilmember Romero Worth, there are several criteria.
Okay.
And one of those criteria is that it is associated with significant events, places, or significant events, roles. I'd have to look at the specific language, or people within the community. And so that's part of all the status discussion. And so John Gamim was the one that was really involved with the master plan for St. John's campus. And then McHugh and Kidder, I'm not 100% sure, Holian, those folks were involved in implementing the meme plan, and Peterson Center is one of those. And sort of that modern interpretation of territorial revival style is what resulted from that dialogue. So it was a new interpretation of territorial revival style. And so that distinguishing architecture was that other point as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to hearing who was involved as being about the architecture, not about, I don't know, just who was involved. So there was more of an architectural connection, I guess.
If it pleases the council, I can read that code citation if you want me to.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Just one moment. Just need to find it.
Are you looking for page 8 or 7 and 8 of the report from going to the H board?
Oh, I'm just going to the code, Mayor.
Okay.
There.
14-12 significant structure.
I'm looking at,
Yeah, I see it. I think the mayor does have it. I could probably read it to you.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Aaron is saying what? I can't. I'm sorry.
It is in the packet on page 7. It starts and it's 14-12 significant structure. And actually, I think if I recall right, reading the minutes, you read this, somebody read it in at the hearing, and that I think was the reason why the issue went away, right?
Mayor, Councilmember Romero Worth, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry that I'm not.
That's okay. We don't need to do that. Just one other question. The issue of the interior wall, that was confusing to me. What was that about? You're going to take it out, or it's going to be preserved, or what? That conversation was confusing to me too.
Sure, I understand, Mayor, Councilmember Romero Worth. The interior is something that typically is not part of the conversation related to our code, but it was part of the conversation related to their program. And so they wanted to preserve these interior murals and distinguished architectural features. That's part of the national historic status.
Okay, because in the minutes, they talk about an interior wall, but they don't talk about it with regard to what's on the wall. I just thought maybe it was in the way.
No.
I mean, it didn't,
Alexander,
yeah, it didn't come, I see this, that connection, I don't think was very well made in the packet material. So just curious.
Apologies.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? A lot of folks said they would like to pass in the moment, but you may have something now. No? All good? Questions asked and answered? In that case, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion and a second, which we can then discuss.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion to approve the application, and there is a second. Is there discussion about the case? Further deliberation? If there's no further deliberation, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll on the motion?
Yes, Councilwoman Villarreal.
Yes.
Councilor Chavez. Councilor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Lindell.
Yes.
Councilor Rivera.
Yes.
Councilor Romero Worth.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the public hearing. That completes tonight's agenda, and we are adjourned. Get home